All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Frontline Fridays, where we explore the hearts and minds of leaders who elevate the retail and hospitality front lines to greatness. And what's their secret sauce? We are here to find out. This show is brought to you by YOOBIC, the AI-powered mobile app that gives frontline teams the performance tools they need to communicate, learn, and work right in the palm of their hand. And I'm Ron Thurston, your guide on this journey. Where I will start this episode is to say that retail comes in many forms, and I'm excited to introduce you to someone that I met recently, and I'll share more about how we met as we get started here. But I want you to meet Lance Orso, who's a true powerhouse in the motorcycle industry with an impressive 18-year career, including 12 remarkable years at Dallas Harley-Davidson, where he now leads as the general manager. Lance's journey to get there has included various roles such as parts manager, service manager, sales, finance manager, and general sales manager, showcasing his diverse expertise and his unwavering commitment to the brand. Lance's passion for Harley-Davidson runs deep, being a third-generation rider who started out as a young boy racing motocross. His early years were spent at motocross tracks across the country before he transitioned into the world of flat track racing. Beyond the roars of the engines, Lance cherishes his time with his family and pursues physical excellence through training in jiu-jitsu, and his energy, dedication, and multifaceted life experiences make him a leader at Dallas Harley-Davidson and a driving force in the power sports community. So welcome, Lance, to the show.
Thank you, sir. It's awesome. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you're here. So I want to tell the story of how we met, because I think it's kind of unique and interesting. So you and I were both invited to be on a panel at a home builders conference, which is wild. So it was the top 50, they called it the top 50 innovation, I think, conference. And it was really the biggest home builders in the country. And they wanted to talk about customer service. So they invited you and me to come and speak about this to an audience that really has nothing to do with retail. But everything you do, everything I do is about enhancing the employee and the customer experience. And it was at the Circle T Ranch there in Dallas, which was a pretty unbelievable place. Owned by Ross Perot. It's their family ranch. And so that, like, the place was an experience. The audience was not a normal audience for me. And then you and I got to share stories about what great customer experiences are. And when we met, I'm like, this guy needs to come on the show, because retail comes in so many forms. And I talk about, often it's fashion, it's home, but brands like Harley-Davidson sit in their own category. And I just think it's important that we explore every part of this. So I wanted to kind of start with you and tell us just a little bit more about your background. Was this intentional, accidental, how you ended up in retail?
Well, I mean, you kind of explained my background, where I came from. So I think I was built for it. If you look at that standpoint, I started as a young boy, and your dream when you start racing motocross is you want to achieve greatness in motocross. And that's maybe, 2% of the guys that start at it achieve something really cool. And to me, it became a lifestyle. It was everything that I wanted, everything that I was working towards. And, I spent a lot of my time in dirt bike shops, hanging out, meeting the people. And it was kind of by accident, but kind of not. The opportunity arose as a young man to jump into the role and work parts at a local dealership. And I fell in love with it. And, we discussed my grandmother earlier being in the industry she's been in. It's always been retail. So I've always watched her sell and push boundaries and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, I could do that. And that's where it started. And I fell in love with it, and it literally consumed my life.
And what I love about that is kind of the parts piece, because you run a really complex business that I want to get to. But I imagine, and I want to assume this, that you really can't sell what you do if you don't understand every part of the bike or talk about it. So when you talk about sales and finance and parts, it sounds like that's where you started. Like, you learn how to build them, how to fix them.
And that was the best route to take, honestly. You know, if you can, I wouldn't say parts is the bottom by any means, but that's where you start. And then you work real close with the service department, you figure out service, and then you make your way. You know, on the import side, you sell the clothing side and the part side. So you're doing both, where at Harley, we're separate. And then, you know, sales is sales is sales. If it's selling the parts or selling the motorcycles, one at its own. So then you start on that side. And I fell in love with it. As soon as I got to the motorcycle sales side, I was like, this is where I need to be, but I needed to go through those other steps in the process to get there.
Mm-hmm. And where were you learning leadership skills along the way? Because I think this is an important piece when you're running a parts department, a finance department, a sales department, a general manager. Every one of those roles requires different leadership skills. And today you're overseeing all of it. How did you do that?
It's a willingness to learn and a willingness to listen. I learned that I had to learn from the people ahead of me and really deep dive and dig in and show a willingness. You know, especially when I got into motorcycle sales, I learned parts from a great parts manager. I watched service where there really was a gap there, and I kind of had to learn on my own and kind of deep dive that. And then when I came to Harley-Davidson, I had a great general manager at the first store there, first time I got here. Good sales managers, and there was really good sales guys on the floor at the time, and they were all extremely talented, and I had to take pieces from each of them. And I'm like, you know what, I got to learn what that guy's doing right, I got to learn what that guy's doing right. But I had to be myself too. I had to be genuine and learn my path to the end. And then, you know, I had a, like I said, a bunch of really good mentors, really good mentors that I listened to and learn positive and negatives from both. You know, some of them were a little too lax, some of them were a little too hard. And I'm like, I'm going to find a spot right in the middle for my team and create greatness. And that's what we're achieving right now.
And how do you kind of coach that in your team today? Are you, because you it sounds like you did a lot of that identifying yourself, which is a unique skill. You know, I think great leaders do that, exactly what you're describing. How do you instill that in other people on your team today?
I give them a little more freedom, and I'm just kind of the overseer with them. You know, I lean in to help when they need it, but I give them a little bit more freedom to make the decisions on their own and then go in and kind of adjust it. I always kind of explained it. I had a really good mentor years ago explain it. Once you get to the top of the heap, you know, you're kind of like a watchmaker, a really talented watchmaker. And you build this great watch like a Rolex that goes out into the world, but you know, you have to send that watch back for adjustments and timing issues. And that's what my job is. I go down, I work with the team and say, hey, let's tweak this. Let's try this a little different. I've seen this work before. In every single department, I really excel in sales because that's where my passion was, and that's where my passion still is. So I can make these little tweaks and little changes and say, hey guys, try this. I've failed a lot. And that's how I've learned these lessons. I've crashed and burned on my face, and I got back up and we kept going and we figured out how to do it right.
And do you have a couple success stories already from people that you're leading that you see incredible potential?
One department here that really struggled, my dealerships in a different part of town. I don't have a mega dealership. I still have an old school Harley dealer, which I absolutely love. I take extreme pride in it. We were struggling on the motor clothes side, which is of course clothing sales. And it was, my manager was really struggling with confidence. And I said, look, I'm coming into a broken system too. So long story short, I left here for a couple years, tried my feet out other ways, you know, it was a financial things like, hey, I'm going to chase money. And I was depressed. I was so depressed. So I come back here, great opportunity popped up. They called me, it's like, let's make it happen. I get here, and she was almost in the exact state of mind I was before I came back, to the point she handed me a resignation, was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm like, yeah, you can. I'm not letting you quit. Like, we're not going out that way. And she's like, well, I feel like I'm failing you. Like, you're not failing me at all. We're going to figure out how to make this happen. And we're a year in, she's crushing it. We're digging ourselves out of the hole that we were in, and her confidence is through the roof. We've made a lot of changes. She's pushing it. She's got a great staff behind her, and we're watching that department excel. So that's one that I really love. I love coming in and just really helping people find that confidence in themselves to go chase their dreams and chase their goals and accomplish them. I mean,
And I would
we've got so
imagine,
many success stories in this place too. I could go all day. Like, I mean, we have a lot of really cool stuff. My staff's amazing, and we wouldn't be able to accomplish any of it without them.
and that's true in every retail environment, but I also think when you talk about confidence, you're also, I, again, I'm kind of making an assumption that the customer sometimes knows more than you do, or potentially about the product. And so the confidence can actually be really intimidating if someone's coming in with this wealth of knowledge and history about Harley-Davidson. So how do you, that's why I love this word confidence. How do you manage that on your team?
Well, this brand's been around 120 years. You know, you just kind of hit on that. People know this brand. They've studied this brand. The customer base that has been here for a while is so loyal to this brand. I tell my staff a lot of times, be like, look, they're probably going to know more about this bike than you do, especially like in motorcycle sales. That's what I'm getting at on that. We have to know every model, know the key features of every model, where this person that's coming in has researched one model. They have done their research. They know that bike forward and back. And I tell my staff, I'm like, look, they may know more than you. Who cares? If you can make a friend before a sale, you've got this friend, and it's real easy. You might learn something from them and be like, hey, man, that's awesome. I actually didn't know that. That's great. And just move on in the process, because that you run into it a lot in this business.
I bet you do. That's why when you said that, it makes a lot of sense that you will likely never, don't let the fact that you may know less about specific things than the customer diminish your power and diminish your confidence, because that could feel like I'm losing because I can't keep up with the customer.
Yeah, 100%. And that's just why you guys stay in the process. I'm really, really process driven with my staff, you know, from the greet to the probe to the sit down. That's where, you know, we're meeting, we're figuring out what bike works for them. We're getting them to the table. We're getting the process going. And as long as you stay in that process, regardless of what gets thrown at you, you can always pull back into the process and move forward.
I could see that. So I spent this week in New York at Lead Summit, which is a lot of e-commerce and marketing stores, everything in our industry. And one of the most, I think, challenging and top of mind conversations happening are around customer loyalty and customer retention, because they're probably the most challenged they've ever been as an industry, regardless of the product. It doesn't even matter what you sell. And everyone's talking about loyalty and retention. And so when I think about Harley-Davidson, those are words that are probably critically important to you, that loyalty to the brand. So kind of walk us through what that means in your daily life, how those two words show up for you.
Customer loyalty is everything here. I mean, these people, especially Harley people at every Harley dealership across the country, that customer base bleeds Harley-Davidson. It's everything, you know. A lot of these guys will get their first bike ever in their 50s. They can finally afford it. And as a little kid, I remember getting my first dirt bike. I got it Christmas Eve. And my parents said it was the worst Christmas ever, because the next day I rode the dirt bike all day and they had to stand outside in the cold the entire Christmas. But we get to witness that every single day. When we sell somebody a bike, it's like that same feeling. And I get to sit back and watch these people have that feeling, and it's amazing. But then once they're here, you've got to show them like they're everything to us. You have to give them all of it. So, you know, our process starts in the motorcycle sale, and then we take them to Motor Close. I do a customer passport where I take the customer around the entire dealership. They meet a manager and part of our staff from every department. So they have that person they can call into. They've got an issue, they can call, they have a guy or a girl they know they can talk to. So we keep that in. And when you've got people that have a relationship with that customer, they're loyal. They are loyal. They will drive past 10 other dealerships to come to you because they're like, hey, I know a guy. And the biggest thing in our shop is service, in my opinion. Sales sells the bike, service brings the customer back in. When they come to get that bike service, and if you drop the ball in service, you can ruin everything. I mean, that can, and service was a big growing pain, and still to this day is a growing pain that I have here. It's a constant battle because most people that come into that department, it's, they've had a bike issue. So they're already not in the best state of mind about it. Like, oh, my baby's down, I've got to get it in and get it fixed. How long is it going to take? So your back's already against the wall, and you've just got to communicate. That is the biggest thing in any industry, in my opinion. You have to have open communication with your customer at all time. Keep them in the loop, good or bad. They just want to know. And if you can do that, you will have the most loyal customer base that you could ever imagine.
Yeah. So much to learn from that. And again, it doesn't matter what you sell. It's, you have a relationship with the store team. You have a relationship with other parts of the business. You ultimately, in many brands, you then also shop in multiple channels. For you, it's primarily the store or the showroom, but the idea of the most loyal customers are engaged in every channel of your business. But that requires great intention to say, well, here's what this part of our business can do for you. Here's what maybe our online exclusives, but for you, it's service, it's apparel, it's the bike, it's the full lifestyle. You think about that.
And the thing about that too is, a majority of our business leads coming in is from the internet. I would say 85% now, to where that wasn't the case. Walk-in traffic's half of what it used to be. So my guys have to be so dialed on the internet, so dialed on the phone. It's process, because right now in my area, there's 8 Harley dealerships within an hour almost. And somebody can make a phone call and drive across town if they get a better, response time from the internet, a better phone call. So you have to be on your A game at all times. But when you get them inside the store, that's where you have fun. That's where it's like, oh yeah, here we go. We're about to have fun. We're about to have a blast. The music's playing, there's bikes everywhere. People love it. It's Disney World. We get to hang out in Disney World every day. But to keep Disney World running, we have to be on our A game all the time.
Yeah, yes, you do. And which kind of takes me to my next question around recruiting and hiring. Again, we talk about acquisition and retention. That also applies to people. And so I'm sure you have plenty of people who would love to be there, but what makes someone great today to work in Dallas Harley-Davidson for you?
A willingness to learn. A little bit of passion can go a long ways. Most people you get that want to work in a Harley dealership or in this dealership in general, it's passion. They didn't say, hey, I want to work in a Harley dealership because whatever, motorcycles are cool. No, Harleys are cool. Like, I want to be there. I want to experience that. And as soon as you get them in and they feel it, it's like, okay, that's it. And if they're good at working the process and good at building that relationship, they're going to stay. I have sales guys here. I literally have employees that are 16 years. Been here longer than me. I have probably 5 employees currently working here. It's been here longer than me. And it's just, working with them. Every morning I come in, I walk around and I talk to the entire staff. I have a sales meeting with my sales staff. I walk around with my parts and service manager and look at the day of what's going on. I pass through motor clothes. I want them to know I'm present and I'm here for them and I'm here with them, all the way down to my guys out back washing bikes. I say good morning to them every morning. I walk in and walk back by. How's your day? Everything good? And I just keep that. I want them to feel that they can come to me at any time with any situation. And that's all the way down to my customer base too. If you log on to my website right now, that's my cell phone number underneath my name. I don't hide. I want everyone. This is home. This is where I want them. And that's the customers feel it and my employees feel it. And that's why we do well with it.
Yeah. All are welcome. And maybe that's also part of, I think your brand can also feel very intimidating to like a non-user. And so it's also creating an environment where you have team members who can welcome someone and say, hey, I just think this is cool. I just wanted to check it out. I just wanted to see, or I heard about this. I saw it in a movie. You and I have talked about how you're so involved in the entertainment industry and how that shows up for your brand. So I think it's this balance of you have to be an expert, but you also have to be welcome to the non-expert.
Yeah. And customer wise, you get a lot that it's their first time in a Harley dealership. It's like, man, look at those guys are covered in tattoos. They're scary looking, you know, like who wants to go in and hang out with them? And it can be very overwhelming, but I've trained my guys too. We're not a car dealership. We don't run up and yell the handshake. I'm this. Like, I don't want you to feel like that. I want you to walk in and be like, hey, you want to go sit on my couch and hang out and have a conversation? Like, that's how I want everyone to feel. And I mean, my guys range from 1% outlaw bikers to doctors that come in here. I have every end of the spectrum, and we fully embrace every single bit of it.
Yeah. And again, it's the best expression of when you just use the word retail. Like, what is that? The ultimate expression is an experience that builds a relationship with people and a brand. Yeah. And you're right. The outlaws and the doctors both maybe want something different, and you have to manage the relationship as they walk in the door. It's fascinating to me.
It's so fun. It's the best thing in the world.
I bet it sounds like it, and you're really good at it, which showcases a lot. Let's talk a little bit more just around kind of leading, again, kind of this diversity of team. How do you think about how you hire, how you manage them, how you coach them to be even better every day?
Yeah, I mean, I interview every single person that comes in that we want to hire. I guess you call it a vibe. Some people get the vibe, some people you don't. Some people can be taught the vibe, some can't, and you're going to feel it. And some people will come in for one department, be like, hey, I want to work in sales. I'm like, have you ever thought about parts? You'd be really good in parts, and you feel it out and you make it work. But we have a process for every single person that comes in. My training process for sales is a month to 2 months, depending on where they are, where I feel they're at. Same thing with service, parts, motor clothes. There's a process that they learn. Some people are going to get it and some people aren't. I think that's just the nature of the beast. And I'm very blunt with people, be like, hey man, maybe you're not cut out for this. Maybe this isn't where you want to be. And then some days you have that guy comes in on the first day and you look at one of your managers and like, we've got a rock star. It's happening. I feel it, it's right there. And I felt some bad ones before too, where I'm like, that's the guy. And then a month later, I'm like, oh no, that was okay. But
not the guy.
No, and it's the other thing too, the when you can say a vibe of learning and teaching and all that stuff, but how do they mesh with the team? Are they a team player? Are they going to do good with the team dynamic? Right now, I have a really good sales team. They all mesh real well. They help each other. They lean on each other. And I told them, I'm like, you are going to succeed so much more if you can rely on the person next to you. And y'all have a very open relationship of what's going on. And you'll see them working together on deals and just crush it. It's amazing. But if you can mesh with our team, I can teach you most things.
I can see that. Yeah. And so when you said earlier, there are 8 dealerships in a certain radius, you're also then competing with them for people. And so, here's and I'm sure there are corporate structures, but it's also, every GM like yourself is responsible for the experience in your own 4 walls and what you create. And every GM creates something different. And those questions that I get about which brands do it well, which brands don't, there's no answer to that question, because every 4-wall retail business, the GM is responsible for creating greatness or not. And so if you've got 7 other dealerships that you're also competing with for talent, what's unique about your building?
I'm still one of the smaller ones. We don't have as massive of a footprint. I'm on the north side of Dallas, up by a freeway. It's in the middle of being torn down for the last 10 years and rebuilt. And it's not ideal. But as I tell my staff every single day, it's what we have inside, man. When you walk in, that's what I want you to feel. And it's funny, last week, I've been hooked on this show, The Bear, lately. I've been watching it.
It's a great show. I haven't started the new season, but it's a great show.
So it's that chaos. It's that, that woo, just wide open. And we were talking about, I'm like, that's how I feel every day sometimes, but I hold it in real well and we're making it work. But I'm like, we're a lot like that restaurant. If you look at that restaurant, it's not in the best part of town. You could tell there's guys working the corners, doing everything like that. And I said, but then with what they've created, when you walk into it now, it's that wow. It's that, oh my gosh. And, you know, I told some of my staff, I'm like, go to season 2, watch episode 6 through the end, where they're learning, where he gets a chance to go learn somewhere else. Then one of them gets a chance to work in the best place in the world. And you find that passion. You're like, oh, there it is. That's what we needed to find. And that's how I run this place. That right there, when you step foot inside our doors, your family. And that's how this place is always going to be.
Wow. Wow. And you're delivering, I don't want you to share numbers, but you're delivering the results that are better than others.
Yeah, a lot of the bigger dealers, I mean, we're very competitive with them, or, you know, putting up better numbers. And that's years of hard work. That's process. You know, we're part of a bigger corporation. We have 14 dealers in our group that we have, and I have one up the street from me. The GM over there's a close friend of mine. We talk 3 times a day about crazy stuff. Like, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Yeah, I have. You know, we're bouncing ideas constantly, and I lean on him for a lot of things. And, you know, as a group, we'll all get on calls a lot of times. Like today was I had a phone call, but a lot of times just us Harley guys would get on a call, because we're dealing with a lot of the same situation, but a lot of differences. So we're constantly bouncing off of each other and learning and trying to grow ourselves.
Yeah. And thinking about the industry and some of even just the challenges that are, I think, economic challenges, traffic challenges, there's a lot of headwind in our industry. And I say our as a retail industry, with multiple segments within. So I'm no doubt impacts you. And so how are you overcoming some of those headwinds?
A lot of process changes. The way we close deals and stuff, because definitely APRs are a problem right now nationwide. We know that, and you know, we're suffering as well. Also, if you look at it, and I've said this to you before, I sell a lifestyle. I don't sell a motorcycle. So it's still a toy in a way to a lot of people. They don't have to have a motorcycle. They have to have a truck to get to work. They have to have a different vehicle to function in everyday life. So we have to drop back on that too. That's where we have to chase passion. We have to push that, because it's definitely a tough time to buy for anyone.
Yeah.
So we have to lean on those heartstrings of people. We discussed this before about like what I just said was selling the lifestyle. I sell people on going out to bike nights and going on rides with their neighbor and spending time out on the open road with their wife. And that's the angle you have to hit to be able to run this business.
Yeah. It's not just a financial decision. It's much bigger than a really emotional decision.
Deep. Yeah.
And we just a couple minutes left, but when you think about your experience and how you've created this magic in your own 4 walls, what advice do you give to other people that sell anything? You know, what are your Lance's leadership tips, you know, on Frontline Fridays today?
Find your reason why. I mean, deep dive it, figure out the passion. Why are you there? Why are you doing what you do? How are you going to impact someone's life in a positive way? Push the needle forward in your business and create, you know, lifetime customers. That's what we do. You've got to learn that you're not focused on that one sell coming in today. You're focused on that customer that's going to last the next 20 years, regardless if you're selling clothing, cosmetics, anything. You want to be that person that they come back to day in, day out, saying, Lance is my guy. That's the only person I'm going to talk to. And I mean, that still happens here today. I get calls from my sales guys like, there's a guy on the floor that won't even talk to me right now until you come down here. I'm like, okay, you know, and I love it, but you have to be that in your business. You have to find that, whether you're a frontline sales or at the top of the food chain, you've still got to remember what it's like being in frontline sales and wherever you're at, and go out and make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that in that scenario, I can tell you're excited to go meet that customer.
Oh, I
It's
love
not like, oh, I'm too busy for this. So you're saying like in every scenario, the customer comes first, that experience, and that guy wants to meet you.
100%. I mean, there's days I'm sitting at home with my wife after a hard day, and I'm like, it's real fun when I was just selling motorcycles. That was when it was fun. When you just get in the dirt and just do it, and there wasn't a lot of pressure. You were just having a good time with it. But I wouldn't change any of this for the world.
Wouldn't change it because you're teaching everything that you know to everyone around you, who also then goes home and says, wow, like I really learned this from Lance. I learned how to do this because of you. And that's what leadership is. People are talking about you.
100%.
It's really powerful. Thank you. Thank you. I think the way you approach leadership and people and customer experiences, I know why you and I were asked to be together, because I understand your thought process, and I'm really happy to know you. So thank you for doing this.
Same. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's great. I need to get that hat. I'm not cool enough because I don't have the tattoos,
I'll
but
send you one. We'll get off this call and I'll send you one.
I would get one anyway. Thank you, Lance. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Right, I appreciate it.
So I will be back actually in just a week, July 19th, with another really cool guy, great friend of mine, who's works in the visual merchandising side of our business, worked for me at Bonobos, and we've known each other about 10 years, and I'm excited for Brandon Lee to share his story about creativity and business operations and building his own company today. And be sure to follow YOOBIC on LinkedIn for show details. Go to youbic.com, where there's a whole page dedicated just to the show, where you can find every episode on demand, including the video. And if you're on the hunt for the next generation communication, micro learning, and task management tools to guide your frontline teams into the future, check out what YOOBIC can do. Just click the link in the comments. And with that, have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you next Friday. Thanks again, Lance.